Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest and most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and on occasion make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, Am I the A-hole for not wanting to share the money my uncle gave me with my cousins? And guys, this story is about a guy, he's 27 years old. His uncle passed away, and his uncle left him a chunk of change. Nothing insanely big, but a chunk of change. And the problem is that he's feeling not quite sure what to do here because his cousins, the children of his uncle, are struggling. But here's the deal. His uncle did very well financially. He was in the corporate world. And unfortunately, he married the wrong woman. And pretty much the cause of the woman, the mother of his cousins, she spoiled her kids, his cousins, rotten. And they were the biggest jerks in the world, the biggest jerks in the family, big attitude. You're going to see this. And now that he's passed away, they are obviously hurting financially because they live well beyond their means and all that. And this guy's actually wondering, should I actually help out? Or should I feel bad that I got that money and should I keep it, And you're going to see here, believe me, the cousins are jerks and he shouldn't do that. But it's always amazing to me the situations with family and the turmoil and drama with family that people get drawn into. Unbelievable. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to get more into this. You're going to see what I'm talking about here. And you can figure out, do you think this guy should actually give some money to his cousins? It says here, this has been causing tension since 2019, and I'm starting to have doubts, so I'd like an outside perspective. So, I, 27-year-old male, had an uncle who was smart and a successful man in the corporate world. He married my aunt, his college sweetheart, a couple of years after they graduated because she got pregnant. Age-old story. She went on to have 2 more children, and since my uncle made good money, she became a stay-at-home parent. My aunt was kind of stuck up and put a lot of value into looking good and material possessions, and raised my cousins Brad, Jessica, and Lauren, and they're all 29, 26, and 23, to be the same way. So the uncle, is working hard, and he's providing the lifestyle, and the wife and the kids are living that lifestyle and taking advantage of it. I don't know if he acts that way. I'm probably guessing he doesn't, but at the end of the day, he's the father, so he's responsible for the kids. I will say that. Brad would always brag about the latest and coolest things that he would get, while his sisters looked down on other members of the family for not having as nice clothes or houses as them, but would do it in a Regina George kind of way. So they could argue that it wasn't intended as an insult and would do a sorry, not sorry type of apology if pressured to. Funny how it's always funny how these families that have these spoiled kids act like they're the ones that made the money. Isn't that interesting? The parents are the ones, or at least a parent is the one that made all the money, or maybe a grandparent, and it was passed down to them, and they act like they're the ones that actually made it happen. When in actuality, the only reason they had that lifestyle is because of somebody else who foolishly let them have it. And they're walking around like with a chip on their shoulder. It's one thing if you do well for yourself and you got money and have it and things like that. I mean, in my opinion, no one should be a jerk if they got money, but it's one thing if you made it as opposed to you just got it from somebody else's generosity, right? That always bugs me about people with money. A lot of us didn't really care for their attitude and only really tolerated them for my uncle. Obviously, uncle's a cool guy, even though he raised these kids to be little shitheads. Well, in 2019, a bomb dropped, and my aunt was having an on-again, off-again affair with some guy that she knew in, wait for it, high school. My uncle did a DNA test twice, and none of his wife's children were biologically his. Holy crap. All 3 of those a-hole kids were his real kids. What a little... And this is the wife who's walking around with this snobby, I'm better than everybody attitude. Meanwhile, all 3 of his kids... Obviously, she kept herself busy while the husband is at work, doing well and bringing home the money. Imagine that all 3 of your kids that you thought were your kids. Well, maybe he actually might be happy because he'd be like, hey, well, my 3 kids are a-holes, so hey, they're not my blood, so hey, the hell with it. Anyhow, he said Brad and Lauren were the on-again, off-again guy's father, and as far as I know, Jessica's biological dad is unknown. So... Mom has been riding the carousel, as they say, for quite some time. My uncle was heartbroken and furious and was ready to divorce, but because his wife never worked during the marriage and there was no prenup, he would be screwed. My aunt knew this and showed no remorse. According to my uncle, she was basically like, either you stay and get over it, or I take you for everything you have. That's terrible. But you know what? Okay, they didn't have a prenup, and he provided everything. It would have been better, even if they split up and she got 75%. I'm just picking an ultra crazy high number here. 75%. At least he could walk away from them completely and not have to deal with them anymore. And believe me, they would blow away that money like that. Okay? This guy's a hardworking, resourceful guy. He'd find a way. And obviously, they were well off, or at least I'm going to assume that they didn't piss away everything. They probably did piss away pretty much most of the money he brought in, but even still, he'd find a way. Better to be living at home with that awful woman, those awful kids that weren't his kids. Right? Think about that. Guys can always, after a bad divorce and get raked over the coals, could still start over. But stay with this? That's crazy. Anyhow, my uncle was in a really dark place, and we all tried to be there for him, but he kept walls up. He died not too long after this and drained all bank accounts and racked up huge credit card debts. So he obviously did this on purpose to screw them. Most of the money he took went to either charities, people he liked, or organizations that he supported, but sent $60,000 to me as a gift so I would have to pay little to no taxes. I know because I got a notification from the bank and there was an investigation to make sure it was legitimate before I was granted access to the funds. So he knew he was on the way out of life, so he pretty much took all the money and donated it and racked up credit cards that the wife would be responsible for. This was a long and stressful process. My aunt's credit history was ruined, and my aunt was forced to put her house on the market. I decided to keep my mouth shut about the money because my cousins were now going around begging for financial help and reminding everyone of all those times that they helped when they were in a financial bind. How family helps family. What a load of crap. These are the same cousins that went around with the attitude that they were better than everybody and rubbing in everybody's faces how much money they have. And now that their cash cow, their father, who actually wasn't their biological father, is gone and donated all the money to other charities and organizations, they're in deep crap. And do you think anybody wants to help them? Hell no. I wouldn't help them. However, technically, they aren't family by blood or even spirit in my eyes. They were just rude people I had to see and tolerate during family events, and they aren't really related to me. I'd rather just keep the money and save it for a rainy day or start a trust for potential children. So, am I the a-hole? Hell no. Hell no. Okay? Your uncle gave you that money for a reason, because he liked you, because he probably thought of you the closest thing to a son compared to his a-hole kids. Okay, and he knew you'd be smart about it. So if he wanted that money to go to his kids, he would have given it to them, obviously. So this guy should definitely keep that $60,000. And like you said, put away, invest it, do something with it. Okay, yes, absolutely, you should invest it if he doesn't need it. Or that could be a down payment for a condo, or a down payment for a house, a very good safety net, emergency fund, whatever. But you have it for a reason, and this guy obviously will be smart with it. But his kids, they don't deserve that. I mean, talk about nice revenge on his part on the way out. But it's unfortunate that he passed away. He doesn't say how old he was. Maybe he was 50s or 60s. Probably in his 60s at that point. But even if I still say that he should have just simply divorced her. Even if he would have gotten raked over the coals, he would have gotten something and gotten away from them. And probably would have lived longer. Who knows? But, hey, joke's on them because he screwed over the wife and his jerk kids. But no, this guy should certainly keep his money. And I'm going to read a few extra parts here. He said, apparently, Brad and Jessica both had jobs but often lived beyond their means and relied on my uncle to bail them out. Big surprise there. That's why they're in financial bind, too. Yeah, they never had to worry about money, so now their whole lives, they grew up living up here, and they're used to that, so they don't want to ever have to change that. So they'll obviously spend way beyond their means to put up that fake lifestyle so nobody really realizes they're broke. Another one, he says, technically my uncle, despite his wife's vocal protest, paid for my college education as a gift and told me that I didn't have to pay the money back so long as I kept the grades up. That's awesome. And notice his aunt didn't like that. Number 3, I know that it takes more than DNA to be family and have an adopted cousin on my other side of the family that I would rather give the money to than them. The point that I was trying to make is that I don't feel like family in addition to not being related to me. Number 4, towards the end, I can't say for sure why my uncle didn't leave them a dime. I can only guess that he did it so that they wouldn't use some of the money to help out his wife. There wasn't even any money for a funeral, and my parents had to pay for it. I've contemplated giving them some of the $60,000, but I'm worried they'll ask where I got the money from and how I can get it back to my uncle's widow and her children. Well, I can see you giving some money to your parents because they helped out with the funeral, but on the basis that, hey, it's not your business, But and you don't need the because honestly, if he let them know, if he got out that he got this money, I wouldn't be surprised if his aunt and cousins would try to sue him for some reason to try to get it. You just never know with people. Now, here are a few comments from people in the comment section show I'm not alone in what I think this guy should do. One guy says, not the a-hole. It's your money. It was given to you as a gift. Exactly. Your uncle gave you the money for a couple of reasons. One is that he didn't want his wife to have it, and another is because he explicitly wanted you to have it. It's your choice what to do with it, but if you wanted to honor your uncle, I think his wishes for what the money was not supposed to be used for is clear. Keep it. Right. Another guy says, not the a-hole. This might be a good thing for your cousins. They will now learn what it's like for people not born into money. Rather than belittle people who have less, maybe this new life experience will build character. Maybe they will learn the value of a dollar. In the words of Britney Spears, if you want nice things, you gotta work for it, bitch. Something tells me those cousins aren't going to learn shit, but that's just me. Another guy says, your uncle specifically gifted you this money. No one else had a right to have it. Your cousins, who aren't really your cousins, are adults and should be able to take care of themselves. And how did they help your family when your family was in a financial bind? I assume that would have been your uncle, not them. Your uncle got the last laugh on his wife and not kids, though. Exactly. I mean, it is a sad story about the uncle, because all that life he finds out those kids aren't his kids, and his wife did that to him. I mean, what a sad way to go, I mean, really here. But he wanted to do one nice thing for a relative. The guy wrote the story and was given that money, and so this guy should most certainly keep it for his uncle. And the guy's wife, his aunt, so to speak, she got what she deserved. And at least the uncle went to the grave, pretty much giving the bird to her as a-hole, not even his own kids. So justice is served in that sense, but it is unfortunate what happened to that poor guy. But anyhow, guys, that'd be a good one to go over. Most certainly not the a-hole. It is amazing to me how many stories, what families do to each other and all those things. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, also, if you ever come across a story, something really crazy, something really outrageous, something really entertaining, by all means, send it to me, and I will most certainly, if it works out well, if I think it's a good one, I'll certainly cover it in a future video. I may not do it right away, but it may come out and be useful later on down the road. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.